Hello, everybody. My name is Freddy Molano. These are some conclusions about the course Autonomy and Language Learning environments from UNAD University. I have taken some notes um, just to remember more of the most important information that I consider from this course. First of all, I want to thank to my teammates, the tutor Naida, the director of the course, all of the professionals that were in this course, the special support of Luna Maria Zarate, the professional uh, that is on my virtual portfolio, um, a professional I interviewed, and uh, who I consider some of these conceptions, and we establish some conclusions as well. I want to start by uh, remind, reminding the purpose of my virtual portfolio. This is a tool that is intended to recall all my experiences from this master in pedagogical mediation in language learning. This is the first course in which I created this virtual portfolio, but I consider it necessary to continue just saving information here, doing analysis, and make it real. This analysis with all the different professionals uh, who are in my process. Well, we will see here in this virtual portfolio that I hope you check different conclusions, strategies, experiences, and materials according to the different autonomy and language learning environment. Well, I'm gonna start by talking about autonomy. I think this is the first point and the most important, the key concept in this course. And I have to confess that first, at the beginning, I thought that autonomy is related to self-management of the time and also the decision of learning. But in fact, according to the course and the different authors we work in this course, I realized that there are more features, more characteristics associated to this one. The first one is that, of course, autonomy has to do with that, with self-management, but also that self-regulation of learning. So autonomy implies not only the self-management, the decision of learning, but also the cognitive efforts to learn better. So that's why we see concepts like the self-regulation, planning, management, or managing time. Also reflection that it implies the cognitive processes. How to learn better is in fact the most important question here. And from this question appears a concept that is metacognition. When students start asking themselves about how to learn better, they are using this conception of metacognition. So I consider four stages or four steps that are key and essential in the process of autonomy in learning. The first one is analyze the task. Second one, set personal learning goals. Number three, select learning strategies. And number four, structure the environment of learning. So this was taken from a video, a TED Talk that was in the course suggested by the activities guide and the tutors and Aida Gomez. And I consider it necessary. That's why I'm sharing this with you. So I think these four steps are basic when we want to learn something that not only about talking about languages, but any other thing or subject. in academic. Well, I remember also Gakizi, one of the authors in this course, because he specifies some of the most important characteristics of uh, an autonomous language learner. The first one is empowerment. So it means that students and teachers are engaged in a natural process of learning and attending that learning and created a talk, a professional kind of professional talk where the target language is used. So when you have this characteristic, this feature, um, you are very close to the target language. Number two is the reflection. This is a metacognitive strategy, and the use of reflection implies that you are understanding not only the structure of the language, but also some more advanced features like the cultural approach and the interpretation of different symbols, the cohesion of the sentences, but also the human part of learning the language. That's why it's a higher order skill on students that is necessary if you want to learn something. And number three that I consider important is the target language use. When you're learning, according to this author, that you see, um, the appropriate use of the target language means that you are you want to learn, and you are doing a personal effort. But it doesn't mean that the use of the language needs to be perfect, but that you need that intention to use it continuously, even if you are in the process and you have different levels and the use of the language is perfect or not. It's just more about the intention and the use of the target language, understanding the advance, understanding that is a process, and then you need to keep pushing and learning and doing it better and better. Well, I also remember from the activity guide from the unit number two some features of metacognition and how this metacognition makes good language learners. So this was just um, the revision of this unit was intended to find some of the most specific skills or the most important skills in languages learning. I remember self-direction, self-regulation, self-instruction, self-access, independent learning, interdependent learning, awareness, and reflection. And I'm mentioning this self-direction, regulation, instruction, and access because it relies on the uh, personal needs, personal intentions to learn the language, the target language. Independent learning, because it makes part of the process, it's not all about, this is not the most important, but it makes an important role here in autonomy. How I can work by myself, I can discover things and analyze language. But it also needs of part of interdependence learning, which is the implication of others in my personal process. So it is not possible to learn everything by myself. We need to contrast and to exchange ideas to learn better. And that's normal and it works for any subject or any knowledge in the world. And finally, the awareness and reflection. Well, when I refer to awareness, it can be applied into different stages or options in learning. You can be aware of the language. You can understand the structure of the language. You can comprehend some things that are similar to your own language, your mother language. So that awareness of the structure of languages makes possible a better understanding and better learning of the target language. Also, the awareness of the best strategies for yourself. When you understand which strategies work better for you and what strategies work better for others, when you understand your own feelings, and that's why unit number three introduces. Uh, the last unit introduces, sorry, and is the understanding of differences between people and how every person thinks in a different way. Every person involve different feelings during the processes, and and that's why I considered it essential to mention the awareness of the language, awareness of the individuality, awareness of the cultural approach to the language, and awareness of the different styles of learning, so different kinds of people. And finally, the process of reflection that makes us be better each time, make some conclusions, and improve in this case our learning. Well, there are a lot of things that are really important from autonomy. Mm, those are like the most important I remember. I also remember this author Anderson from unit number two. In here we found how this process of metacognition is organized in different stages, like preparing and planning for the learning. So, uh, as any other process, is essential to state some goals to prepare your process and plan in advance if you want to learn. That means metacognition and autonomy. That awareness that I previously mentioned, according to Anderson, is using the selection and use the different strategies. When you understand how you learn better, you can choose any of uh, the explain strategies, maybe, or the strategies you discover from the interaction with others. And the process of monitoring your learning, which implies that a continuous process of improvement. It's not just doing the same all the time, but increasing the complexity of exercises, doing different things to be better in this case. Number four, orchestrating strategies is just to put into practice of those things that you have learned from the uh, contact with different students or with the contents, and just using this, setting a perfect problem for yourself. And finally, evaluating your learning. So as you know, it can come from others, extrinsic, or it can be an intrinsic evaluating process where you're expected to um, understand your own praxis and organize that information in order to learn better the language. Well, here it's important when you prepare uh, that learning process that you um, make a contrast between your life experience, some cultural experience you have with the target language, and contrast these two um, specific points just to understand better how the target language works. Well, that's the point that I wanted to share with you. Finally, I would like to adapt this process with some strategies that I considered essential regarding regarding autonomy in language learning. The first one is the collaborative work. That's the one we work at in a university. As we know, we learn individually, but we need that interaction with others in order to reinforce our strategies and also reinforce our knowledge through the discussion. We also can use simulators that are very similar to reality, and this implies to contrast the results of these simulations with some facts we know about the real life. There are some tools like different maps, different graphical organizers, conferences, um, working in groups, as previously said, learning based on problems, task-based approach, the use of different forums in virtual environments, the use of face-to-face tasks like the conference I mentioned before, and debates and different ludic activities. Well, that's what I consider essential, yeah, and specifically I consider very important to establish these strategies. At the beginning, uh, one of my questions was, uh, should I teach um, these kind of autonomous strategies to my students, even if they are in elementary school, if they are in a low level? And I did it because I was asking myself about it. If even children required to learn autonomy strategies for learning autonomous, and actually the answer I consider is yes, of course. Teaching is not the transmission of knowledge. It implies more than teaching. It implies more than transmission. You need to explore some of the previous knowledge the students have, even if they are elementary school students. What you need is to bring the new conception of the target language to the previous conception they have. So that's why we need that kind of previous knowledge. They are not a space to fill in. They have some preconceptions, they have some ideas, and it's important to work with them in the development of strategies to learn autonomously. So, and I consider this a huge problem, and I think most of the teachers nowadays are not uh, prepared to teach they like this in this way. They are using the traditional way to teach, that is the transmission of knowledge, but they are not focusing on the students who are learning, on teaching them different strategies to work more autonomously. So that's, I think, the main objective from this experience, to start using by myself in my lessons, the teaching of these strategies for my students step by step, considering the different levels, yeah, but doing it. And also, if I have the option to exchange or share this information with my colleagues, just to give them the option to and the opportunity to use this information in their own processes. So thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have understood my point of view from this course. Thank you so much for all of you to make part of this process, and I wish you the best in this way of autonomy in language learning.